Hello my dears, today we are talking about the pill and the women who are turning their back on it. So recently I've been seeing more and more videos of women who are turning their back on the pill. They talk about their experiences while they were on the pill, as well as all of the things that they've experienced since coming off. And I do think it's really interesting how these videos are becoming more and more prevalent on TikTok mainly, as well as other social media platforms like Instagram, and I've seen videos on YouTube as well on this exact topic. There are also feminists like Mary Harrington who are making a case against the pill. In her interview on Trigonometry, she said that society may be better off if women pretended that the pill didn't exist. It's clear that anti-pill sentiments are definitely rising online among a lot of young women, and so I thought we could just kind of watch the videos that they've posted to get an idea of what's kind of leading them there. And I also thought that this maybe could be quite helpful for other women who maybe have similar experiences, or who maybe have been thinking about this topic in relation to themselves.
If you have been thinking about getting off the pill, keep watching. I got off the pill in November of 2021 because my doctor called me that my cortisol levels were bordering on extremely dangerous and I needed to get off the pill immediately. Now, this is just my personal experience. Obviously, that's not the case for everyone, but I was doing a lot of HIIT workouts and I was gaining weight pretty rapidly. So I went to the endocrinologist to figure out what was happening. And like most doctors, they didn't take me seriously until they saw my blood work panel. So I got off the pill, waited a few months to redo my blood work, and my cortisol levels were down, so I was good to go. But aside from that, I had been wanting to get off the pill regardless, and a lot of my friends have gotten off of it, my sister's gotten off of it. I really don't know many people on it anymore, and we all agree that it feels like a sheet is being lifted up from your eyes. When I was on the pill, I got really used to these days that were just pretty much like a waste of a day. And I would, now looking back, I refer to them as like my stone days, where I would wake up and just be a stone of a person. Like, I didn't want to get out of bed. I was so sad, and there was no like trigger or reason. I was just like, oh, it's one of those like depression days. Like, guess this is just my life. That doesn't happen to me anymore, ever. I like can't remember the last day I was really sad unless there was a reason to be sad. On top of that, like, it's so cool to be able to actually feel your body go through the cycle that it's supposed to go through, because birth control kind of numbs that all, and now I'm so in tune with where I am and what's happening. Obviously, I know this is not an option for a lot of people who are on it for medical reasons, but I was simply on it for safe sex purposes, and there are other options that you can take, like other contraceptives that you can use, so that's what I've been doing. At this point in my life, I definitely never want to go on anything hormonal ever again. I would consider like the copper IUD, but just being natural is like such a flex. I feel like it's just so nice.
Now, this is something that I saw many women in these videos saying, that when they came off the pill, it was like they came out of a brain fog. But because they had been on the pill for such a long time, they had no idea that this wasn't actually how their personality was, and they just thought that this was normal. And it makes a lot of sense, because hormones do have a massive impact on your brain, and so it's natural that when you take these pills, they're going to affect other aspects of your personality or other aspects of your body aside from just your fertility. I do think it's really interesting that she called being natural a flex, or said that being natural is a flex, because I do wonder how much of this anti-pill movement is being influenced by our natural prejudice against man-made things. You know, like, many people have this kind of attitude for different things. Some people think that if something is made by human beings, it's inherently inferior to something that happens naturally.
I was on the mini pill for 13 years, and it wasn't until I came off it that I realised just how much it had been affecting my life. So I wanted to chat through my experience today. Because I was on it from the age of 16 to 28, I didn't know otherwise. So it wasn't until I came off it that I realised all the ways it had impacted my life throughout my teens and all of my 20s. And obviously this is only my story, I'm not a doctor, everyone will have a different experience on it. I really wanted to share my story because I think it's really important that we talk about birth control and that it isn't seen as taboo, and maybe this video might help someone else. Just as a little backstory, I was offered the mini pill, which was called Cerazette, because my family have a history of strokes, and also I have suffered with migraines, and I have migraines in my family too. So that meant for me the best option was the mini pill, because I think the normal birth control can give you a higher risk of strokes and migraines. So number one is how much it affected my sex drive. Growing up, I always thought that I had a really low libido and that I didn't have a sex drive, and that there was something maybe not right with me. Now, it wasn't until I came off the pill that I realised that I had a sex drive, but my mini pill was suppressing it. This was like a huge revelation to me because all of a sudden I was horny, I wanted sex, and I enjoyed it more, which was just something that I'd never experienced before and had no idea that that was different for me because I didn't know otherwise. When I was on the mini pill, I had really bad depression. I was a very low person. I was a very anxious person. I felt stressed a lot. I actually put on antidepressants at one point. I had therapy at one point. And it wasn't until I came off the pill when I realised that wasn't really the case. I only really got anxious and stressed and really low and depressed in the days leading up to my period, like normal PMS or PMDD. But in general, I felt like a much more happy, joyful person, and I felt like I could manage things a lot easier without things feeling like they were the end of the world or really on top of me. That was a really interesting observation, and still now I do get really quite low around the days leading up to my period, but it's nowhere near as like sadness I felt for a very long time whilst on that medication.
Loss of libido is something that has been known to be a side effect of the pill for a really long time now, and as counterproductive as it sounds, it makes sense from a biological standpoint, because the way that the pill works is that it releases hormones that trick your body into thinking that it's already pregnant, and this process then stops you from ovulating. So if you're not ovulating, that is going to affect your sex drive, because a woman's peak, her libido peak, is during that time when she's ovulating. And so if the pill stops your natural ovulation from taking place, the woman wouldn't naturally go through that experience of going through that phase in her cycle, and her body wouldn't do what it normally does and try and encourage her to have more sex and get pregnant, because her body thinks that she's already pregnant. Because sex drive is basically just hormones and our body's way of trying to encourage us to make more humans. Now, this doesn't mean that a woman can only want to have sex during ovulation. That's obviously not true, because women can desire to have sex at different stages in their cycle. So this is the reason why even if you're on the pill, you might still desire to have sex even though you're not experiencing ovulation. It's just that that peak in sex drive that a woman would naturally experience during that ovulation stage would no longer really exist in a woman who's on the pill, because she's no longer going through those natural cycles. It's also really sad that the pill gave her depression, and then she had to go on a separate medication to counteract the depression that the pill caused her. And that's kind of the story of technology, isn't it, really? You know, we create technology to fix a problem, but then the new technology causes a new problem, and then we have to create new technology to fix the new problem that we've created, and that cycle just continues. But this complaint about the pill is also very common. I saw many videos of women talking about how being on the pill had a massive impact on their mental health in a very negative way, and how for many of them coming off of the pill really drastically helped to improve their mental health. And because many of them had been on it for such a long time, they just assumed that depression was just a part of them and who they are, and they didn't know that it could be being caused by the pill. And it is quite concerning in my opinion, because we do give the pill to young girls. Like, I remember when I was in school, there were girls in my school who were on the pill as young as like 14, and they were all on it for different reasons, because I think I don't know if it's still the case now, but back then the pill seemed like a one-size-fits-all kind of solution to all of young women's problems. Oh, you've got heavy periods? Here, take the pill. Oh, you've got bad acne? Here, take the pill. Oh, you have irregular periods? Here, take the pill. The pill was just handed out like sweets, to be honest, for all of these very, very different issues. And I remember that there were some girls who even wanted to go on the pill because they'd heard like rumors that it makes your boobs bigger and stuff like that. And so it's just like, it was given a little too liberally, in my personal opinion.
5 months since coming off the contraceptive pill, I feel so much better. I don't know if it's partly a placebo effect. I do feel happier, more in tune with myself and my emotions and my feelings, more motivated, my head's clearer. I will 100% never go back on hormonal birth control. However, the bad parts. When I was on the pill, I had perfect skin. And now this is my skin. My periods are so heavy and so painful. But this is me. Rather have a few spots and be a bit uncomfortable than not be in touch with myself and my own body. It's my personal feelings. You do you, but just giving you my experience of coming off the pill.
This is also another thing. I saw a lot of people who were talking about the coming off of the pill, talking about this desire to feel in tune with their body and to feel one with their body and their natural cycles and stuff. I think more women are definitely seeking to be more educated on their bodies, and they are starting to understand more about their bodies, because I keep keep seeing these videos of women talking about how they feel at different phases in their cycle and stuff, especially gym videos. There's a lot of gym videos like this where women talk about, you know, how they feel when they are at different stages in their cycle, when they're training and stuff. And there's a lot of these kind of videos of people talking about the ways that their cycle affects their moods. And these are not videos that I used to see. These are videos I've only recently started seeing. And so it shows that there is a shift in women's desire to be more in tune with their bodies and understand their bodies and understand how their bodies work, which I think is a great thing.
It has now officially been 1 year since I've been off the pill, so I thought I would give you guys a little bit of an update. To this day, it is still the best decision I have ever made for my mental health and for my body in general. I was super lucky. I had a very easy transition off the pill. I was on it for 15 years with no break, which is insane. I'm obviously extremely happy how that went because honestly, I didn't even remember what my body functioned like without hormones. I was, however, on Microlute or the mini pill, so I'm not quite sure if that played a part just because it's like not a high dose of contraception. Initially, my experience was a little bit mixed just because at the start, it was like this fog had lifted. I felt amazing. So much clarity, really in touch with my body, which has also improved over the entire time as well. But I will say in the first probably 4 months, I was super depressed in the lead up to my period. This has massively improved since, but I still definitely noticed the decrease in my mental health before getting my period, which is super normal. We get emotional, we get irritable. It is what it is. But when you're on the pill, your serotonin levels are quite stable compared to when you're off it. I also suffer from chronic hemiplegic migraines, so they were increased when I first come off the pill, but that is also serotonin related as well, and since I've not had one. They were probably my only negatives. In terms of my actual cycle, it was bang on regular every single month. Blood was healthy. I ovulated around the same time every single month, and I track that on Natural Cycles using my temperature. Now, I know I'm super lucky with my experience, and I know it's not the same for everyone, but if you are in a position to get off the pill and it's aligned for you, I highly, highly recommend it.
Based on the variety of accents, I think it's safe to say that this is a global movement that many women across the world, or across the Western world rather, are doing. She also spoke about Natural Cycles, which is something that has gained a lot of popularity quite recently, with many female influencers promoting them. Many people now who are not comfortable with hormonal birth control are opting for Natural Cycles. It's quite a good app if you want to learn more about your body and you want to get more in tune with your body. I will also say though, I do think that this type of contraceptive method only really works for a very particular type of women. Like, you have to be very, very diligent and very, very disciplined. Like, you have to follow the instructions of how to use this app to a T, because if you don't, there's so much more room for error and you could very likely get pregnant. And Davina McCall made a really interesting documentary on contraception for Channel 4, and she spoke to some women who used the Natural Cycle method who got pregnant while using it.
I'm heading to a local yoga class in Great Harwood to meet a group of women who've all used fertility awareness apps to try and prevent pregnancy.
Close your eyes and just start to soften through the shoulders. Draw your awareness to the sound of your breath.
I'm keen to find out how they got on.
So I was using it for 5 months and then found out that I was pregnant with my son.
It's great, it's fantastic, and then I got pregnant.
I got pregnant within 2 weeks by accident.
Inhale, heart opens.
Alice was using Natural Cycles, a fertility awareness app and digital contraceptive with a slick interface and glossy ads.
I'd spoken to my sister and she said, use this app that I use, you have to pay for it, but it's really good. 2 months I'd been using it for, and the app was going, your period's late. I was like, oh. Rang my sister, I said, I was using that app, and she went, oh yeah, I've stopped using it. One of my friends. I was like, thanks for telling me.
Natural Cycles uses a combination of temperature readings and cycle data to predict a user's fertile and non-fertile days. Using a specific type of thermometer, a user needs to take their temperature as soon as they wake up and log this accurately in the app. However, if they're feeling sick, hungover, taking certain medications, or even haven't slept well, temperature readings should be discounted. Natural Cycles claims that it's 98% effective with perfect use and 93% with typical use.
So Alice, how do you find the app? Is it easy?
I just found it really awkward to use, to be honest, because it was quite strict on the first thing. As soon as you wake up, take your temperature. And then when I wake up properly, I've forgotten what the temperature was to put it in my phone, so I didn't find it easy to use at all. But I did like that it was natural, so I pushed myself and I was like, no, I'm going to keep going with it.
Focusing on the sensations in your body.
Kate was also keen to try something new.
I wanted an alternative to the pill. And an advert popped up on Facebook. You can see how it's appealing, taking my temperature and not having hormones pumped through my body.
Breathing through the nose and out of the mouth.
Young women want to have a nice, natural lifestyle, and that's why these apps become so appealing to them.
Digital contraception can be brilliant for understanding more about your cycle and getting to know your body. But it can take motivation and discipline to get right. If you're like our yoga mums, who were in a place where having a baby wasn't a disaster, it could be a good choice. But it's important to remember that effectiveness reduces if the rules are not followed to a T.
So it is one of those contraceptive methods where it's very, very dependent on the user, how successful it is. And I suppose you could say that with any contraception method, really. But personally, I would really strongly suggest before you try any of these natural contraceptive methods, if you're considering it, is to first of all really educate yourself on the female reproductive system. A really good book that I would recommend is Taking Charge of Your Fertility. I'll put a picture of what it looks like on my screen. This is a really, really interesting book. I remember discovering this book like a few years ago. And as I was reading it, I was shocked at how little we are actually taught about the female body and the female reproductive system. And I think it's a really good read for young women to read, even if you're not trying to get pregnant, even if you're not sexually active. I think if you're a woman in your fertility age, it's quite a good book for you to read so you can have a better understanding of your body and how your body works. It also talks about things like PCOS in there, endometriosis as well. And it's a really good book for women to have to equip themselves with information about their body so they can understand how it works. And the reason why I would suggest perhaps reading a book like this or something to like really educate yourself on the female reproductive system before you use something like Natural Cycles is because it's an app, right? And apps can make mistakes. Many girls nowadays have period tracking apps, and I'm pretty sure there have been times when your period tracking app has gotten it wrong, right? It's predicted when your period's going to start and you didn't actually start your period. And that's the problem with technology, is that sometimes they can be really, really good, but sometimes they can get things wrong. And so I think if you are well educated on your body and how your body works, then you can help to account for those errors. And so when you're really well educated on your body and how your body works, then you start to be more aware of all the natural telltale signs that your body already gives you to tell you when you're fertile and when you're not fertile. Because books like the one I just recommended actually tells you how to be able to tell those signs, even if you weren't using these tracking apps or whatever. And so I think it's good to have a combination of the two if you're going to use these more natural contraceptive methods, because if the app gets it wrong, because you know what to look out for within your own body, you'll be able to know when the app is wrong, if that makes sense. Whereas if you have no idea how your body works and you have no idea what telltale signs your body gives you to tell you when you're fertile or when you're not fertile, then you're going to 100% trust in the app. And what happens if the app is wrong? Because I think it's good for you to have that extra knowledge so that you can account for any instances where the app might make a mistake and make an error. Because, you know, with many of these apps, they do sometimes take a while to really know your cycle and to really understand your cycle. So, you know, I think it's good to just have that extra knowledge, because if you get it wrong, then, you know, you'll become a parent much sooner than you intended. I think that this anti-pill movement is quite interesting to watch and observe. I think at the moment, though, it's still very, very niche. Maybe calling it a movement might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's definitely still quite niche. I think for the most part, people still have a positive or an indifferent view on the pill. I think a lot of people still use the pill and will continue to use the pill because of just how convenient it is. You know, you just have to pop a pill every day. You don't even have to really think about it. And because of that reason, because of just how easy and convenient it is, I think it's going to continue to be one of the most popular forms of contraception that women opt for. But it would be interesting to see how this movement looks in 10 years, whether it'll grow or whether it'll just kind of stay niche. Like, I do think that would be quite interesting to see. But I also think it's really good that women are having these conversations, you know, and sharing their experiences, because ultimately the only way we can improve things is by having these conversations and making these issues known, so that we can try and see how we can better these contraception methods for other people who may also be experiencing the same problem. My personal view on the pill is kind of indifference, to be honest with you. I don't really have a negative view of the pill. I think ultimately the pill serves a purpose, and for many women they'll be able to use it without any problems at all, and so I think it's fine to continue to have it. I'm not personally against the pill. I think it's good that the women who don't react well to the pill now have more options than they once did. My main issue with the pill really would just be the fact that we give it to people who are quite young. Like, that is just weird to me personally, and I guess at the time that we were doing that, we had no way of knowing how it would affect them, you know, because giving the pill to under 16s is something that we started doing in more recent decades, and so we had no way of really knowing at the time how it would affect these women later on in life. And I guess all of the young girls who were put on the pill really young, we're only now able to know how it's affected them, because now they've grown up and they're able to tell their stories, and so now we're able to see all of the different ways that it affected them when it came to their mental health and all these other aspects within their lives. And so maybe now that we have this information, we can have a better approach to it, because with any drug, it takes decades for you to fully understand all of the different ways that it affects you and how it works and stuff. So, you know, I can understand that at the time that the pill was being given to young girls, none of this stuff was probably really thought about, because we didn't have the data at the time, because we hadn't been giving it out to loads of young girls en masse yet. And well, now we kind of have more information about it, and we're learning more and more about the pill as we go. And so it'll be interesting to know like what the approach with it will be as we go forward. But yeah, I'm personally not really in favor of giving like hormonal drugs to young children as they're developing, or young teenagers as they're developing. I think, you know, we just kind of need to just let them grow up and not mess with them while they're still young. But it's definitely interesting to hear these women tell their stories. I would be very interested to know what your thoughts are on the pill. Do you have positive views on it, negative views on it? Have you also noticed that there's a growing anti-pill sentiment on the internet? Or have you maybe got anti-pill sentiments that you didn't used to have before? If you've enjoyed this video, you may as well like and subscribe. Thank you so much for giving me your time today, and I will see you in my next video.